Hello everybody, and welcome to the design talk tonight, how to create the right atmosphere in your kitchen living space. I'm going to brave it outside in this blustery weather for just a little while. I'd rather hope that I'd be able to spend a little bit longer outside, and I'd forgotten that when I last did this talk it was actually the middle of summer. So you're actually not going to get too much of the outside, but I felt it was really important to start here at the outside, which is where the story begins for us. So if you can bear with a little bit of noise, a little bit of blustery, and a little bit of my hair being disheveled, then we're all good. I hope that for you, you are ready to learn a lot, and that maybe you're even sitting in the spaces themselves that you're thinking about having a project for. Maybe your kitchen living space right now, or you might be just doing other spaces in your lounge, etc. And I hope you're sitting comfortably with a glass of something nice and warm, thinking of me here in the cold. But I just wanted to say that these have been incredibly demanding times for our kitchen living spaces. I guess in a season that's been quite unprecedented, we've been living a lot at home. And what that has meant for most of us who have had to be in our houses, we've not only been in them on our own, but we've been in them with other family members, sometimes all of our family at one go. We've been doing things in our kitchen living spaces like homeschooling, studying, working, that we haven't had to do perhaps ever before. And we have now been able to kind of find the most irritating, upsetting things about our houses that we ever could have thought of. I mean, who would have thought that you could get 5 people in a kitchen galley all wanting to make sandwich at the same time, for example? Or that you needed to use the bench for doing some homeschooling rather than rolling pastry out. So these are unusual times, but they're also incredibly beneficial times because we've had the opportunity, like never before, to have time to think about our homes, to assess what they're good for, how we're living in them, how much enjoyment we are or aren't deriving from them. And I think that this has been an incredibly special time in that aspect. So tonight, as we look at the example of our award-winning studio here in Winchester, I want you to be thinking about making your home kind of award-winning to yourselves. Things that we've done, that you too can do by giving principles and ideas that can take your home from the irritating, uncomfortable to that I'm so glad I'm in this space feeling. Now, I'm starting outside for a real reason, and that's because many of you who are undertaking projects at home are also thinking about perhaps either a new build or an extension, or at least having an indoor-outdoor feel to an existing kitchen, especially which we're going to appreciate as the summer months move on. And so really there is a picture and a dynamic that happens with the outside and the inside. And I know I could have started on the inside, but I wanted to stress the importance of the synergy between what's happening outside our front door or our back door and what's happening inside our homes themselves. And to stress the point that sometimes people get it wrong when they either create a beautiful house that looks wonderful on the outside, but then the inside proportions are not appropriate. You know, the windows are symmetrical from the outside, so it looks lovely as curb appeal, but you get inside, and if only you'd had your window a little bit higher, you could have run the windowsill and the worktop directly in front, you know, one scene into the other. So there's lots of little things about indoor and outdoor together. I would always say never start just from the inside and forget the outside, and never do it the other way around. But there's this wonderful synergy between outdoor, indoor. So what did we have here? Well, 15 years we've been in this place, and I can tell you that the first 10 or so of our years, we lived in what was externally not representative of who we were. Inside the showroom, we had 3 wonderful kitchen sets, but outside, if you passed us in the street, if you're driving your car, you would just think, oh, that's a bit of a grim building, nasty car park, not very nice. So our key desire was to create an external impression which represented how we really felt. We want to be part of this lovely village community that we're in, and we wanted to raise the standard of buildings in the area. We wanted it to have a beautiful contemporary edge, but we also wanted it to be welcoming. And right across the spectrum of our thoughts for this extension that we created was welcome, hospitality, peace, and inspiration. And of course, we wanted to showcase the excellence that we believe in, the outstanding nature of both the products we use, the way we put them together, and then the delivery and service of that. So one of the things, if you're creating a place that's welcoming, hospitable, fits in with a neighborhood, is why not have a garden? So as you can see behind me, this is what we call our Narnia garden. We call it such because it's like an entrance. When you come to us, or when you come through into our kitchen living space, you're coming into a transition from life's hecticness, everything that's outside going on, hopefully into what we classify as an incredibly peaceful, calm space where you can have clarity of mind and really make informed decisions. So the ambience is really important. Most of our clients come up the garden path and into their house through a garden. So we thought, why shouldn't we do the same? In fact, it was partly forced upon us by the fact that we live in a flood zone. We have a drain that actually runs right the way under this kind of porch area that we have here. So we had an enforced decision that we couldn't build properly over this piece of land. But we believe in taking every obstacle and turning it into an opportunity. In fact, if at the end of a project, you can't ever see the obstacle that you started with, but you can only see the outcome, which is great, you've really got a victory there. You've really won something over. And I don't think if I'd have told you that we couldn't have built on this area because we had a drain problem, you wouldn't have thought about that. You would have thought, what a lovely entrance. At least that's what I'm hoping you've been thinking. We think every day when we come to work. So here is our beautiful garden entrance. And I'd just like to take you indoors and talk about some of the things that we can do in our kitchen spaces. I'm hoping that you'll be able to hear me a little bit better in here. So if any of you have been struggling with the hearing, it should get better now. So welcome to the first kitchen, which is named by us as the hospitality kitchen. We love to name our kitchens something because that shows a representation of the ambience that we're trying to create within that space. And I guess the first principle that I'd like to offer you tonight in regard to how you create the right environment in your kitchen living space is to first really consider the question why. It's a fabulous question and it often leads to the what and how, but the first starting point is the why. Whenever we talk to clients, we know that they come either because of a desire or a need, you know, the desire for something beautiful, the desire for change, or a need that something's broken, repaired, not working, and something needs solving. But underneath those needs and desires are whys. And the why we had in this kitchen is to create an area that was eclectic, earthy, welcoming, hospitable, and did I say eclectic? If I didn't, yeah, eclectic. We wanted it to be a place where people could come in and also say, I could really live in a home like that, or I'm trying to build a home like that. So we wanted it to be something that identified with what people are doing. So some little tricks that I've got for you. What happens if you've chosen words like hospitable? Well, then you need to back them up with purpose within the room you're in. And one of the things I suggest you do maybe at the end of this talk sometime when you've got the time is to find your sweet spot, you know, when you've got the right drink in your hand or you're soaking in the bath, and just think about some of the words that you personally would like to associate the feeling words with the project that you want to create and the ambience and atmosphere that you want to create in your kitchens. because there's no point just expecting that at the end of it you will have the outcome if you didn't put the input in at the beginning to identify where you wanted to go. It's like going on a car journey without knowing where you're going. So a hospitable kitchen, I'm sure, is what many of you will also be wanting to create, or a welcoming kitchen. In a welcoming kitchen, you need space. So I hope you can appreciate that in this kitchen, we have set out zones. In a way, we've separated the kitchen living space into two key areas. There's the area over the far side, which has got the island, and then the area this side, which has got the dining table. In between, the circulation and the flow is really well thought out. And if you want a kitchen where you're thinking about being hospitable and welcoming, you need to make sure that whoever's coming in that doesn't know your kitchen is aware of where they should go, that they're guided basically by the size of the pathways that you create, and that you have sufficient space between items for that circulation. Number one key. Number two key about a welcoming, hospitable kitchen is the presence of a dining table or somewhere to sit. We've actually created an enormous dining table here, which we designed in-house. But it's not just about the table itself. The table is an invitation, come and dine. And you can see, we can seat here 12 people, which is an extraordinary number of people to have. And we do dining clubs in here, so it's great for our dining clubs. But maybe at home, yours might be slightly smaller. But when you're thinking about a place for dining, it's really important, if dining is going to be in the kitchen, that it has its own presence. You don't want your dining table to be too close to your island or your working station, or indeed any bar area where there may be other stools. And you can see in our example here, we actually haven't got bar stools anywhere. We've stuck with a table which is some distance from the kitchen island. One of the reasons for that is circulation. The other reason is because there is an irritation about having a high bar stool very close to a low chair. Some of you who have that situation at home may find that, you know, it's the bar stools are being left out, the chairs at the table are being left out, and you're doing this little weave in between, which can be a little bit irritating if you've got to keep pushing things in. So having space is really important. The dining table in a room which is going to be hospitable, the lighting is really important. So you can see here, we've designed a light which comes down close to the table. When you bring lighting down lower than head height, you're creating pools of light. You can see them on the table, and you're creating an invitation which demands a more intimate aspect. So it's a large table. Intimacy might not be the first word that you're thinking with, but as soon as you bring the lights down, and they're dimmable, so you know it's great to have dimmable lights, because then you've got the benefit of having them light on a day like this, or much more moody if you're creating a bit more atmospheric. Centralize your table to something significant. It may be a window. In our circumstance, we've centralized the table to a brick-clad wall. Now, those are just brick slips, so we don't have a brick building. We have nothing, and obviously behind there are some of the supports for the ceiling, and then we've been able to use behind the brick slips for insulation. But what a lovely backdrop to this table, because the table is somewhat grounded between the wall and the floor, and it sits in its own space. Really important in a hospitable kitchen. Another thing that you might need in a kitchen, which is going to be both welcoming, a place for entertainment, if you like to entertain a lot, is some kind of entry area before you come into the kitchen. It may be to the side of one of your rooms, especially if perhaps you've got large patio doors spanning onto the garden. But before you come in, you want a stopping point. Having some kind of area that's either a drinks cabinet or even a throw keys down, keys and paperwork. If you're coming in from the main door, it's really important to have somewhere where you can just chuck stuff and hide it out of the way. We've got this as a kind of a buffet area. And obviously we can serve drinks here, but it could be the cereal bar, it could be the gin bar, it could be anything that you want it to be. It could be coffee. I mean, we've got a boiling hot water tap there, for example. So what this does is it keeps perhaps the entertainment area partially away from the kitchen, which then allows the kitchen to do a different job altogether. And this is really key if you're trying to invite guests into your home and they need to find a space to be comfortable themselves. Another key feature of getting the atmosphere right is having a focus in your kitchen. For those of you who've got larger kitchen spaces, you could have multiple focuses. And a kitchen like this, which is large, on a sunny day does have multiple focuses. But if it's got a single focus, and hospitable is one of your words, there's not much better to focus on than a hob. And in this case, we've got an incredibly large gas, chunky Wolf range top, which is amazing, sitting on quite an incredibly large island. So a focus is really significant. Our secondary focus in this room, which you can't see in any great detail today, is the fact that we've got glazing all around. Now, of course, tonight, all you can see is blackness. So what I would suggest for those of you who are going to create atmospheres like this is part of the garden experience and the house experience coming together. If we were to light our garden with perhaps little LED posts outside on the floor, shining on some particular vases or on trees, all of a sudden, we're not looking out into the deep, dark blackness anymore. We're actually looking onto an enlivened garden. And that will make the space of your kitchen feel, one, more welcoming. You'll also feel less like people are observing you all the time because you can see who is outside. And it will just kind of give a bit of a sense of calm because very few people are putting curtains or blinds in these big window spaces now. So lighting outside and having it on at night is a great answer. So have a big island if you're planning to do, if you've got a big space and you're planning to do lots of entertaining. Another thing about a kitchen which is intended to be welcoming is the positioning of all the different appliances and the arrangement themselves. Many of you have heard of the working triangle, the kitchen triangle. That is the engagement between the hob and the sink and the fridge. And in this scenario, we've broken the triangle, and there are other scenarios in which I would break that triangle too. But the reason why we've broken the triangle is normally you would have all of those things beyond the kitchen, so in other words, the island would be here, your cabinets would perhaps stop here, and everything else would be beyond that. But in this situation, we've brought that elevation right their way out further. And this is the big fridge on the end, which of course, if I'm a visitor and you say, oh, help yourself to a beer in the fridge, I imagine you'd be quite pleased at having the fridge on the end there. And it's not only a lovely place to have the fridge, because it serves both the kitchen and those who are dining. And we always recommend having the kitchen on the periphery, the fridge on the periphery of the kitchen. But you are creating an invitation. Would you mind, if you were the chef, would you mind just checking if things are ready in the oven for me? I'm not entering into your kitchen or your precious space, which is where you are standing working. The hob is a standing working place. The sink is a standing working place. The fridge and the ovens are visit places. And therefore, as a visitor, I can participate in part of, if you like, the celebration of being together in this place, the community of being together, by being able to reach some of your appliances without getting in your way. I think perhaps one of the key things that we found in kitchens during lockdown is when there's multi-users and everyone's there at one go, it can be a little bit of shuffle. I need to open that cupboard, etc., etc. A very strong principle we have here is guard the chef's space. In this kitchen here, the chef's space is essentially here. So standing this side, I become the feeder, the orchestrator, if you like, of whatever is going on inside this kitchen. In setting that ambience, I mean, look at this. I actually feel like I could cook standing at this kitchen. It makes me even feel like I could. And to be honest, I'm not the best cook. But I have got space. I've also got space for other important things like washing up, which is really key. But in a hospitable kitchen, another thing that is really important is thinking about maybe it's multi-generational. Many of you may be living with young children, different ages, and maybe older family members as well. Not only that, we all come in different height sizes and different aspects of what we can and can't do. So when a kitchen is hospitable, it means that it's accessible for different types of people. So we have 2 heights in here, which is very helpful. So that means that somebody who's shorter and someone who's taller can actually perform the same function, say stirring something or chopping something, with an ease that's relative to them. So actually quite important in a kitchen which is meant to be welcoming, community atmosphere, engaging, is to create these spaces and forms that allow ease of use, because functionality and beauty have to go hand in hand. Another principle is that do not forsake functionality for beauty if you really want to enjoy working and being in your kitchen. Other key philosophies, if you like, for creating the ambience for a welcoming kitchen, which is what we're doing here, is the visual aspect of how people can participate with you without too much interaction. Now, we all love handleless kitchens because they're nice and sleek. We don't knock our bodies on, on handles. We can't hang our dirty dishcloths on there, so they all end up looking beautifully clean. But they also lack the initiative that a handled kitchen has. So if I have a handled kitchen, I know where the fridge is and which way to pull it. It's much more obvious. Likewise with open shelving. Now, I know it's a bit of a bugbear for some people. It's like, open shelving, no, I would never have that because I don't like dirt. I don't want to be cleaning it all the time. I haven't got nice things to put on shelves. And this very much is a personal thing, which is very much why I asked you to ask the questions right at the beginning. The question of why. If my why is hospitality, engaging with people, community, building a home where there's a diversity of activity, then having open shelves, messy or not, means that I can make use of things. It's obvious, oh, maybe the tea is here and I could use this for something and I can grab that. And having open cupboards as well, where I can kind of say, oh, I can see where the wooden spoons are. I don't have to keep asking you, where will I find this? Where will I find that? Or if I'm helping you unload the dishwasher, I can get glimpses. I know they don't suit everybody, but they can be really beautiful if they're designed into kitchens in which you want audience participation, if you like. You really want to set a community. The other really key thing about a welcoming kitchen, and about large kitchens actually, I've talked a tiny little bit about zoning, is making sure that the ebb and the flow of the kitchen is right. So this kitchen works great if we've got 12 people and it's all alive. But what if it's just me and one child in this kitchen today, and maybe you want to do a bit of homeschooling, and but I also want to do the lunch. There's a table there that could be used for homeschooling, of course, but looks a bit lonely if there's 1 or 2 people dining on a table which is served for 12. It's almost like pass me the salt and roll it down the table. So create other areas. Here we've got this lovely little more intimate table with a wooden table on the side of the island. It doesn't interrupt with the chef. but it's a really inclusive little space for 3 people. If you just wanted to sit down, maybe have a chat with a chef, maybe look at a cookery book, or maybe you want to read a newspaper, or perhaps somebody's going to do a bit of homework, or even watch the television, you know, a bit of breakfast time TV. So creating spaces like this creates little intimate pools in what could otherwise be quite a vast space. So make sure when you're zoning and thinking of the why, that you have one of the whys might be, I want to have a space where I could not feel alone in a very large space. You will all have different whys, and I love looking at people's whys, and sometimes we even ask people to send us photographs when we're looking at ideas for their kitchen, not of kitchens themselves, but of things that bring the feeling that they want to end up with in the kitchen themselves. That's a really unusual and creative way to get the thoughts rolling if you're not somebody who normally can think of ideas for why you want to do things. The other thing I'd like to just talk about a little bit in an earthy, eclectic kitchen was one of the things that I mentioned. Those are 2 other words. So how do we think about earthy and eclectic? Well, earthy to me means using some natural products and some plant life and bringing the outdoors in. If it was daytime, we'd be able to show you a little bit better how the outside comes in when you've got a kitchen with lots of glazing. But we've used wood in this down here. Wood, of course, does another thing. It helps the acoustics of a building. So it's all very well these days wanting a beautiful large space with tiles on the floor and stone worktops and a stainless steel sink and, you know, lots of glass. But we end up echoing. And every time you put down a knife and fork or move a chair, we hear these noises which can irritate. So by bringing in soft tones of wood, which are going to absorb, of plants, which will also help absorb both noise and also create some kind of just that harmony, I guess, that bringing the outdoors in, you kind of feel, I personally feel, when I see the green of a plant, it makes me smile. I know that this plant is growing. I know it moves, it changes, it has its own little moods. It gets happy when I water it and sad when I don't. And there's little new shoots coming, etc. There's something about the natural world, the plant life. If we can bring those into our kitchens, we will end up feeling better. In a kitchen studio like this, with lots of air conditioning, we tried herbs and they failed terribly. But it could be a wonderful place for a herb garden if you had the right temperature in your kitchen, if it wasn't too hot from the sun. Here we've used succulents, so if you're like me, need the easy way out, this is a perfect way to do it. And we create these wonderful big planter concepts. Look at the way that even if you're being hospitable with a lot of people going on, if I was sitting behind there wanting a little bit of time to myself, I've actually got a little hiding place. Another principle, add a little bit of mystery into your kitchen. This mystery is from afar, you can't see what's behind. There's a rise and fall television, which this television here goes up and down, which is rather nice. So when it's flat, you don't even know it's there. And obviously you can sit behind there and perhaps even hide some of the desserts you've prepared earlier on a little area or a buffet so that nobody can see them initially when they're walking in if they're going straight to the dining table. Lots of little things to do, and mystery is one of those important things. When I talked about eclectic, there's a sense in this kitchen here that we have got some very different things going on. I've talked about the open shelves. open shelves are perfect for anyone who likes to have a little touch of their own personalization, because you can buy things from bric-a-brac shops. You can have your favorite vase, you can have a set of china that you bought in Italy, and every time you get, you see it, you just want to make your own pasta. These lovely little things, our knickknacks, our treasures in life, our personality, can be on display without being too out there, without interfering with our kitchen. And so eclectic is down to you and how far you want to go in that. But by choosing the things that you like, you get to choose. We wanted a semi-industrial feel in this kitchen, that kind of urban feel, as though there was a lot of diversity going on. And you may not have looked at it yet, but if you just look up at the ceiling, we've actually created concrete effect panels. They're actually kitchen door fronts, but larger version of kitchen panels in a concrete look. I think you've very cleverly done and popped onto the ceiling with some lovely gaps between them so that they appear floating. We didn't have, what most people don't have, is a huge height in our studio where we could put steel pipes in, have the essence that we're in this real urban or factory feel. The next best thing to us was to bring some of those textures that you would find in those places, like concrete. And again, this decked-on table has a concrete looking finish. It's not concrete, so therefore it won't scratch. It's decked on, which doesn't scratch at all. So amazing product. And the laminate, of course, is lighter. You wouldn't want to be pinning concrete to your ceiling. And then instead of using spotlights, because spotlights are used a lot now in ceilings, and if you want to create ambience in your home, one of the things to avoid is just continuous runs, a grid of 24 spotlights all staggered evenly across the ceiling, because then you'll get an even light distributed across the building instead of pools of light where you want them. So here we've got, obviously we've got extra strong studio lights here. I'm actually getting quite nice and warm standing under them, but in a home you might have slightly smaller track lighting with less strong light, but you can direct these lights onto things, and you can see how light bounces off cabinet fronts. It bounces off the metal here, and it's directed away from the ceiling, so that in this situation the ceiling looks darker, therefore higher, therefore giving us the impression that we're in a much taller building than we actually are. So these are some of the tricks that you can do with lighting, and then bring lighting down over tables. So we have the main table over here, and then on the smaller table, we've really pulled our lighting chandeliers down onto that table. And by doing so, we're really creating an invitation to come to those special places. As you can see, the main island, the task lighting is up bright, so in the places where you really need to be working, you have quite a flood of light. There's quite a lot of detail on this kitchen that I could continue to tell you about, but I want to take you to another space, because it may be that those words that I've been talking to you about are not at all the types of kitchen that you want to create. You might have a smaller space. So I'm going to take you over to what I call a statement kitchen. Now, a statement kitchen has a very different atmosphere about it. And after all, we're talking about creating atmospheres. And one thing you'll observe straight away is there are no windows in this kitchen. The only light that, other than our lighting, that this kitchen is getting is borrowed light from the other areas of the home, so the hallway or the dining area, etc. And so the nature of thinking about a smaller, darker room can make people worried. And the automatic thing may be, I need to put a white kitchen in. I definitely need to get a light coloured kitchen in this dark space because I need to bring it alive. Well, that could be a possibility, and that will depend on what your why was, why and your what, and the mood that you're creating. But here's the words that we chose when we were designing a kitchen that would be a statement kitchen in a darker, smaller space. And that would be personal, inviting, because we always like our kitchens to be inviting here, actually, dramatic, and again, we've got mysterious, and I'll talk to you a bit more about mysterious at the end. So the first thing we deal with in the kitchen when we got the wonder of not having windows and doors. I mean, can you imagine having a room that you want to design and you don't have to worry about the fact that there's a window or a door in the way? Well, in a way, that's perfect. This is what we had here. You could possibly see from the line of the wall that we have here and the flooring underneath it, this wall did used to continue further straight along, and it's been opened out so that we've got a relatively square space. And in a square space, it's quite nice because you can get the sense of, I can do things symmetrically, but we wanted to break up that symmetry a little bit. There are people who love symmetry and there are people who love asymmetry, and we wanted to play a little asymmetry. But in a small space, you can also feel that you haven't got enough room to achieve what you really need to do. So we did a little cheat, which I will tell you about, which you may be able to use in your home. And that is, we borrowed space from another room. That's this room I'm standing in. So whilst the wall did come along here, we decided that we would rotate the island, which perhaps normally would have been squared on and opposite the sink, and we would turn it 90 degrees a different way, and we would protrude it into this borrowed space, which for us is walkway space. So we have the benefit of that. And therefore we are actually borrowing a foot or so. In order to make it not seem a little odd, we also did the same with a wall. So this wall here used to end at this point here in line with the original wall. But in order for the island to not feel like it was just a protrusion, but it actually has purpose and repetition, because that's really important, these walls were created, but with the sense of space. Because if we'd brought this out and it had been a full wall, we wanted to still get the sense of, in this area here, we're not losing too much to the space that we're borrowing it from. So we clad this wall with stone, which we think looks lovely. It's overhanging and it kind of brings this lightness into the kitchen. And what we're doing in this kitchen, because we wanted it dramatic, that was one of the words, is we're using contrast. Dark colours in a dark space contrasted with some lighter areas really do make things sing. So we have a matte, a very chunky matte decked on Kilo worktop here, combined with a polished Calcutta stone, polished stone here. And the two are bringing together this harmony and dynamic, which allows for drama. The other thing about drama is the weight or presence of something. So if you want to up the ante with drama, one of the things that you really need to be thinking about is the size and presence of something. You can play with drama with very thin, but that tends to have an elegant drama. And this, we wanted a weighty, intimate, personal drama. So we've got a lot of chunkiness going on in this kitchen, a really chunky worktop here, a really chunky wall here. And these are really adding to the sense of presence and grounding. So we grounded the island in the center of the room and turned it 90 degrees. And we want to extend our space. So one of the ways that is commonly known to extend spaces is through the use of mirrors. But what perhaps is less thought about is the shape, size, and positioning of those mirrors. I don't know about you, but I don't really like catching myself on a bad hair day if I'm in the kitchen and catching a picture of myself, reminding myself that I don't look top notch. So in a kitchen like this, I have the mirror, but I don't have to see myself because the mirror is below my head height. It's set there, and the reflective nature is that I can see further than my walls. So I'm adding space and interest and depth to my kitchen, giving me the sense that I've got more space. I'm also adding beauty because whatever objects I've got that are near to my mirror are going to be magnified, reflected on the back, obviously. So therefore, it's important what you place in front of mirrors because you're going to be seeing every angle, but it makes for some kind of like lovely ongoing reflections. This mirror is smoked as well, so there's a subtlety about it. And of course, being set back and not near the cooking area, it's not such a need to clean it constantly. Some people have their mirrors high up. Again, that serves the same thing. If you're creating an ambience in your kitchen where you want a little touch of a lightness, these rings that a mirror brings, and a little bit more of dancing, if you like, of light, then having a high up mirror where you just catch glimpses is great. One of the other things about creating a personal and dramatic kitchen here is shadows. I love the use of shadows. Shadows equals drama to me. So therefore lighting is really important, as is texture. We've used these octagonal concrete look tiles on the back, which when you have the shadow of the daytime, if we were in a kitchen where there was a little bit more natural light, the octagons would reflect where the sun was at any point of time in day. And I think that's absolutely gorgeous. Where we have fixed lights, it means they are more static, but nevertheless, I don't know whether you're looking right now at diagonal lines or whether you're looking at little flower daisy lines, but the shadows, or whether you're looking at pyramids of shapes. But that's the beauty of having shadows and things with texture, is that they're going to create a movement. And to me, there's nothing like a cornfield or a tree in the wind. And though we can't bring those things into the kitchen, we can bring in other things that create movement, and shadows is perfect for creating fantastic ambience. The other thing that creates a warm, inviting ambience, and it has much to do with light as well, is the use of metals. Metals have become really popular, not just the jewellery we wear, but the accessorising of our rooms. And so here we've got brushed gold working with kind of like fake gold plated, but nevertheless shiny, patented, together with even some chrome, steel in the sink. We got a gold brushed taps, and then some more bronze accessories. Dotted around this room are various different metals. And as long as you have these metals in more than one place, so for example, we have the brushed steel here and the brushed steel repeated in the sink. We have the brushed gold here, and we have the brushed over here. We have the shinier vases here, and we have the shiny here. As long as you're repeating so that something is not in isolation, you're creating an instant harmony. You're creating something of beauty, and wherever you stand, you're going to get a bounce off of light from something different. So right as I'm standing here, I can see that this has got a pattern that's created around the outside. I love these little patterns. They take something from being static to having movement to it. And there's something beautiful about being able to direct your lights where you want to. Again, flexibility, even in the smallest of kitchens. I love the fact that instead of using bar stools, which we're always using bar stools at a bar, we've got this amazing comfy bench. Not only does leather add texture, but the fact that we have a bench seat here and a really comfortable one means that if reading the magazine while you're waiting for the dinner to be cooked, or talking to somebody, or if you've got somebody on a laptop, catching up with email, or plugging the charger into the socket there and doing the homework here. It's a wonderful way to engage. I am out of the way of what's going on over there, but I have my own space. I feel really comfortable in this kitchen. There's just something about creating a personal atmosphere, and of course you can dress it how you like. You know, throwing extra accessories into rooms, fur if you want to be kind of, you know, have a more dynamic, lots of textures. We've got fur with leather, with mirror, with stone, with metals here. We're creating so many mixes of textures and layering, just like you would with clothes and accessorizing. The more you layer, the more warmth you bring into a room. So if you're looking for a warm and inviting atmosphere, then think about textures, think about your lighting, think about shadows. Perhaps the final thing in this kitchen is, as I said, I have a principle of mystery. And one of the things I love about this kitchen is the mystery I'm going to share with you now. We have what appears to be over here, the end of it all. Well, we have our fridge freezer on here. Again, I said it was accessible from the outside. So if I happen to be on the bench and needing to get some milk, I could slip round here and get the fridge. Whereas the ovens are kept more centrally in the kitchen, this section being the most important bit. But then through here, we've actually created a wonderful storage area. Now, we didn't have a large room to start with, but we had a rectangle room, which we made a square. But if you imagine this as your house, this could be your boot room. It could be your utility. It could be your pantry. And it could be as big or as small as you choose is necessary for what you need to do. So if you don't need a very large kitchen, because what you want in your kitchen, you want to always look sleek and tidy and chic, then why not have a walkthrough into a back kitchen area, a glory hole, perhaps you might call it, where you can store all of the junk, all of the things, you know, all of your juicers, and maybe a secondary hob, and just, or maybe just your washing machine, or it just could be all of your storage items, or things that you want to keep away from pets, just through different doors. You know, if you've prepared things and you want to keep them away, then these pocket doors are a wonderful way to kind of create mystery. And of course, if I'm working in the kitchen, I might want to keep these doors open all the time. But if I've got guests round and it's the end of the day and I just want to forget about all my mess, it all goes in there, the door's shut, and I'm back to my own peace and calm in what I hope you'll think is a really inviting kitchen. So these are principles which we use in our kitchens. I've shown you two. I hope you've got a taster now of the kind of things that you could use in your own home. It all keys from your starting place of why. Remember those questions I shared with you at the beginning? Why are you doing this? What would you like to bring from the old? Perhaps the old, what from your existing kitchen do you love that you wouldn't want to be without? Not just, you know, my favorite oven, but the fact that I can do this, the fact that it makes me feel like this. What do you want new that you have seen or experienced, or you desire that you've never thought of before? And then think about some of those words, those key words, those emotional words, because at the end of the day, when you walk into your kitchen living space or any other space in your home, come to think of it, what you really want to do is be at ease with your space and to really smile. That's why we have a tagline, creating kitchens with light, space and laughter. It's important not only just to actually love cooking in your space, but to actually love being in the space. I've had kitchens where people simply just want to dance in their kitchen, turn the music on, put the lights down and have a dance. Kitchens are great spaces for letting your hair down in so many ways. So I just want to invite you, if you have any specific questions, things that you're thinking about, want help with, put them in the chat, email us at info@themyerstouch.co.uk. We have many other design talks available, so perhaps you're at the start of your project or even hadn't thought about a project yet. There's lots of ideas that we have, and we do regular design talks, some of them about small and large kitchens, some about light, space and laughter. You can go onto YouTube and find some of our kitchen design talks there as well. We're constantly updating them as well, and we want to respond to your questions. So please do that. Or if you prefer, pick up the phone, call us on 01962 600 700, ask to speak to one of the designers. They have as much passion about creating kitchen living spaces which are going to have the right ambience for you as I do. And so we really look forward to being part of your journey and to helping you along the next steps of your journey. Thank you very much for listening and being part of us tonight.